Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Forbes India Leadership Awards Leadership Circuit, Pune Edition, presented by Federal Bank. After incredible conversations and inspiring moments in Bangalore and Coimbatore, we're excited to bring this journey to Pune, which is a city that exemplifies vibrancy, resilience, and relentless spirit. Today's theme, legacy, scale, and reinvention, perfectly captures the essence of this remarkable city. Pune is a place where tradition meets transformation, a city with a rich legacy of manufacturing, education, and entrepreneurship, and yet it is constantly reinventing itself, scaling new heights across industries, innovation, and culture. It is this unique blend of honoring the past while pioneering the future that makes Pune a compelling story of endurance and growth. Before we dive in, I'd like to extend a special welcome to our esteemed guests from Federal Bank, whose partnership makes this evening possible. Kapil Bhatia, Group President and Country Head, Federal Bank, MVS Murthy, Chief Marketing Officer, Federal Bank, and Jairaj Bhatt, Senior Vice President, Federal Bank. Thank you for your presence and your invaluable support. Over the next few hours, we'll dive deep into conversations with visionary leaders who are shaping Pune's future, exploring the powerful forces driving innovation and unpacking what it truly means to build institutions that not only last but thrive over generations. So, thank you all for being here this evening as we celebrate Pune's inspiring journey of legacy, scale, and reinvention. To officially kick off today's leadership circuit and set the tone for this conversation and conversations going ahead, I now invite MVS Murthy, Chief Marketing Officer, Federal Bank, for the inaugural address.
On behalf of 16,000 of us, I'd like to thank each one of you who have come here this afternoon. A marketeer can't not do his advertising, so we are the sixth or the seventh largest bank. Take or give a few quarters here and there. We are a 5,20,000 crore bank. Amongst the 40, 50 odd companies who have a net profit of 4,000 crores annually, an attrition of less than 2%, 42% women employees. So we tick all the boxes on diversity, on profits, on numbers. Very excited to tell you that almost about 27% of the remittances which come into the country come through us. So that's about us as Federal Bank. Very proud to be associated with Forbes India Leadership Awards for the next 3 years. And over the last couple of sessions, we have gone to Bangalore, which is a Silicon Valley for us. We have been at Coimbatore, which is the Manchester for India. And we discovered that not just it's Manchester, but we are also doing a lot of work in defense and other kind of activities. And now here we are in Pune. So it almost feels like a BCP for business for us. And thank you for your time, for your business, and all the affection for the stock.
Now it's time for a conversation that speaks to the heart of Pune's industrial transformation. Pune has always stood tall as a powerhouse of manufacturing with its robust engineering prowess, a deep culture of innovation, and an ability to adapt with agility as the world evolves. But what does the next frontier look like in a world being reshaped by artificial intelligence? How does a city with such a proud industrial legacy seize opportunities and tackle new challenges to make Pune for the world? To explore how Pune can reimagine its future, push beyond boundaries with technology, and continue to set global benchmarks for manufacturing excellence, we're privileged to have with us a visionary leader who has been at the helm of one of Pune's most enduring and dynamic manufacturing giants. Requesting Chandra Shrikant to come on stage and take this conversation ahead. And joining her is Amit B. Kalyani, Vice Chairman and Joint Managing Director of Bharat Forge.
I want to start with a very broad question, something that's making headlines every day, something that's on all our minds, and that's, Trump and tariffs. As a manufacturing powerhouse that has global presence, you're there in the US, in the Europe, you have plants there. How are you viewing this? I mean, every day there is so much of uncertainty to wake up to. So, first of all, how's your blood pressure
No, my
these
blood
days?
pressure is absolutely fine.
Yeah, okay.
So, I'll tell you honestly, your business has to be robust enough that it can withstand some shocks for some period of time. And then you have to adjust to take into account whatever changes are there in the environment. That being said, I think the dust is yet to settle on the whole tariff matter. Um, we have never seen in the last 30 to 40 years after globalization started this pullback on globalization and whole nationalistic walls coming up at this scale and this pace. Now, quite clearly, this is a never before seen moment, and this is going to have a lot of ripples and repercussions in all markets. So, I think we need to stay the course and see what happens. Notwithstanding that, clearly things are not going to remain the same. There are going to be changes, both in terms of demands, in terms of volumes, in terms of prices, and many, many things. But I think India can and will overcome this. We may go through some pain, but I think we can, or rather, we have the potential to use this as an inflection point to rebuild stronger, better, to be better prepared 3, 4, 5 years down the line. One thing that I see in India that I've seen for the last 30 years is that we never do anything in a planned way. We are at our best when there are no options, and that you just
When we
have
are
to
pushed
you
to
just
the
have to
corner.
make something
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be one of those times, and hopefully this is a time when we not only use it for a spot solution but for a larger solution.
Right. So, what are the 2, 3 things that you think the government can do, for the industry? What are the 2, 3 things that Bharat Forge is going to do as you navigate this uncertain phase in the coming months?
The government has to do only one thing, that is build Bharat and India. We have an acute shortage of every kind of infrastructure in this country. In the cities, we don't have roads, we don't have proper drinking water, we don't have proper sewage treatment, and 100 other things. In the villages, we don't have roads, we don't have power, we don't have hospitals, schools, any kind of facilities. Use this period when there is a lack of global demand, when I believe prices will be low of commodities, of interest rates, etc., to build infrastructure in our country. Build your infrastructure so that you create assets, you create employment, and you create a multiplier effect. And you do it at a time when your costs are low and the benefit is the highest. So that when we come out of this, we are much more competitive, we're a stronger economy.
Right. And from a Bharat Forge perspective, Amit, what does this
From a
mean?
Bharat Forge perspective, we are going to do many things. We will work closer with our customers. We'll get into new products, new segments. Our businesses like defense are growing very fast. We'll continue to put a lot of emphasis on that. We will also look at getting into new areas using our existing technologies and capacities so that we can broad base our revenues further. And we will look at reducing cost. We will use technology, we will use other means to reduce cost.
Right. Does this also, push you to sort of double down on your investments in the US, perhaps set up more manufacturing capacity there to offset the impact of tariffs? Of course, it's not something that can happen overnight, but investments going forward, will you look at, deploying more money in the US to serve customers?
So
there?
we have a large investment already we have
Yeah.
made in the US. It's upwards of, I would say, 270 million, $250 million. So first thing is get that up and running to high full capacity. That should be a revenue of more than 300 million. So get that to that level, which will generate a good return, and then look at further growth opportunities. But there may be some adjacencies that we can quickly get into, which may be smaller ticket sizes or bolt-ons or whatever. I mean, we haven't identified anything yet, but we're looking at 2 or 3 different areas.
to in terms of acquisitions that
In terms of either setting up some facilities or getting into new products or some partnerships slash acquisitions.
right
More partnerships than acquisitions.
Right. The last time we spoke, Amit, I think this was sometime in January, where you said we need measures to revive growth, not in 5 years, 10 years, but in the immediate term. It was part of what you told us as part of your budget expectations. Do you think that has played out? Have the animal spirits sort of revived? The finance minister recently made a comment on how corporates are sitting on huge cash flows, but they are not putting that to work. What is your own perspective?
I've had 2 board meetings this week, and both the companies are putting their own money into working capital rather than borrowing from the banks, because they have cash and the bank interest rates are lower than the cost of the working capital. So that should give you the answer. I'm sure our friends in the banking sector also say the same thing, that credit-worthy clients aren't taking money because there really isn't new capacities being created. There are very small new capacities, very limited new capacities being created. If you look at many sectors in the core sectors of the industry, you look at steel, you look at cement, these two are the most, let's say, the iconic or the most base material sectors. In India, all you've seen is M&A.
Yeah.
I would say only 10 to 15% capacity increase has taken place in the last 5 years. Otherwise, the rest has all been M&A. So, where are we on the steel capacity? We're at 140, maybe 160 million tons today. By in year and a half, 2 years, we'll be at 200 million. China's at 1.2 billion. Okay, so, I'm not saying China is overcapacitized, but at least a country like India needs to be 400 or so million, maybe 500 million, for the per capita consumption to even be half of or 1/3 of China's. So I think we have a long way to go. And the real reason for the capacity being low is we really aren't creating infrastructure. Where are our new train lines? Where are the real, roads and ring roads and all that? Pune has been talking about a ring road for, I think, 50 years. What was a ring road will now, I don't know, become a equatorial road. I think very soon we'll have to go around the whole earth to circumnavigate Pune. Look at the roads in Pune. I'm not even joking. My factory to my home is less than 5 kilometers. There are days when it takes me more than an hour. If there was no pollution and if I was not afraid of being hit by buses, trucks, I don't know what else, I would probably walk and reach in 40 minutes.
This reminds me of Bangalore, which is grappling with a similar
Bangalore
situation.
still has better quality of roads. Chennai has excellent roads. Hyderabad has fantastic roads. Bombay now has great roads. Delhi has always had good roads.
Yeah.
But Pune is neglected. If we just focus on Pune and fix our roads, I think you can pump a lot of juice into this economy.
Right. Overall, in terms of the state of the Indian economy, what is your take? Are things getting better?
Chandra, a lot of people look at India. I'm investing in India. I'm setting up a plant in India. A lot of my friends tell me that. A lot of companies which I meet at Davos and other places. And I always smile and I say, yes, you're setting up a plant in India, but not in India. You're going to set up a plant in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan,
And now Andhra Pradesh, which is giving away
Orissa,
land.
Madhya
Yeah.
Pradesh, wherever. It really depends on the competitiveness of the state.
Yeah.
How effective is the state at attracting investors and at servicing investors? And how cost effective is it to set up an investment in a state? If you wanted to set up if you got a client saying, I want to set up a plant in West Bengal, won't you do 3 times the due diligence of somebody who said, I'm setting up a plant in Gujarat or Karnataka or Maharashtra or Hyderabad or whatever? So, it's a state to state matter. If we have 4 or 5 states where it's easy to do business.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest of India is not easy to do business. And even in those 4 or 5 states, the kind of industries that really China plus one wants are like chemical industries. Okay? hardcore chemical, like almost like creating an Indian BASF. You can't find a industrial park to set up a big 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 acre plant, because we have environmental norms called red zones, and you have to have something called a PCPIR to set up a plant like that. It's PCPIR is petrochemical and petroleum industries. So chemical is all comes under that. So where is the infrastructure being created? One of the biggest problems that I find in India is everybody wants to set up plants in Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, Chennai. I'll give an example of Pune. Today only I explained this to a couple of people in my company. If I'm setting up a new factory in Pune, let's say I'm setting up a plant to make electric motors, right? It's going to be either in Ranjangaon or Chakan. Most of the people who will come to work will be living 30, 40 kilometers away. They'll be transported there. The shop floor workers will be coming from rural Maharashtra or from Karnataka or some other state. So they'll be staying here as either paying guests or as on rental. They'll be paying minimum 7 to 10,000 rupees a person on a sharing basis. Okay, then I'm paying plus they will be spending 2 hours a day minimum transportation, getting bus to and from work. So 1 hour there, 1 hour back. If it's Ranjangaon, it could be 2 hours each way. So you're spending 10,000 rupees on rental. The company is spending 5 to 6,000 rupees transporting you back and forth. Plus I have to pay you minimum of 50, 60,000 rupees a month salary so that you can live and send something back home. So my total cost to company comes to almost 65, 70,000. Okay, including all the benefits, etc. Where the guy gets in hand maybe 50,000, out of which after spending money, he has maybe 15,000 left to send home. The same, so my cost to company is high, quality of life is poor, the city is getting overcrowded, and nobody is happy. Same thing if we set up a plant 200, 300 kilometers away from here, where the government builds a big industrial town, 20,000 acres of industry, 10,000 acres of social infrastructure, which means you invite the Apollos of the world to build hospitals, the DPSs to build schools, build social infrastructure, build whatever is needed, give housing plots, invite the companies to provide housing, etc. And you build an industrial park. And you build a park where you have a virtuous cycle of companies. Not one guy making toys and the other guy making, something diametrically opposed. You have a whole value chain in place, like what China has done. Then your overall cost of manufacturing comes down because every step of the value chain is there in that area.
The same ecosystem.
Your working capital dramatically reduces. Your working capital reduces by 50 to 60%. Your return on capital employed goes up by 15%. This is studies that we have seen. And your overall time to launch products and develop new products becomes half. You become unbeatable. This is what we don't understand. And to do this, you have to have a cross-functional thinking of industries, ministry, education, power, water, rail, ports, whatever else infrastructure that needs to be provided. All needs to be developed as a master plan and put in place. You develop 10 such towns in India, you will be able to attract a few hundred billion of investments.
I think some parts of it, Tamil Nadu is trying to do with Foxconn investing there in Hosur and Sri Perumbudur.
That's not happening by design. It's happening by default. Nowhere is it happened by design.
So where do you think the intent is missing? Because Make in India has been a very flagship pet project.
Nobody has gone into micro detail. I'll tell you examples of, I know people who have taken this to its most logical conclusion. I have two friends who have gotten into furniture making. Okay, one guy was working in ICICI Bank and another guy was working in Lazard. Both of them have a great interest in artisanship and all that stuff. They've set up a huge factory in Rajasthan to make furniture with state-of-the-art equipment. And they said, why Rajasthan? Because the whole karigari is there. So they've taken the same employees who would have normally worked for a carpentry contractor, and they're paying them a good 4-5 lakh rupees a year, giving them medical benefits, housing, everything, and they're just turning out like hotels and hotels worth of furniture a year. So unbelievable. They're doing now about 800 crore turnover,
Wow.
and this is in their 6th or 7th year. And now they're outfitting cruise ships, they're exporting stuff. So I'm telling you that individuals can do so much. Imagine if the whole government and the created an ecosystem to do this, how beneficial it could be. Now this is what is missing.
Got it. Got it. Amit, moving away from government and intent to policy to your own plans for the next year, what can we look forward to? Defense, of course, has been a big bet for you. And I think previously you also spoke about getting into semiconductors. Tell us about what we can expect from Bharat Forge going forward.
So we are incubating several new businesses. One is electronics business. We see high tech and electronics very allied to our defense business, since we've created a lot of capability there and there are a lot of electronics in that. This is an area that we're developing, and we're already supplying to hardware manufacturers. We're supplying both components and we're supplying assembly equipment. We will continue to do this, and we'll also be getting into new hardware and electronic sectors. We have a EMS business, which is electronics manufacturing services, where we do PCBs and stuff, because that we need in-house as well, but we're doing that for others as well. I think there are 2-3 other opportunities. Our aerospace business is growing very well. We just made an announcement that we signed a new contract with one of our big customers, and we're setting up a new large facility to make a new product range for them and for others.
This facility is coming up in
Baramati.
Okay. Right. Any other areas that you
No,
bets
right
that
now
you
that's all.
And I can't not but ask you about AI and automation and how are you leveraging that in the manufacturing industry?
So
in
we've
your
been
role?
using digital technology in manufacturing now for a good 6-7 years. So we use digital in improving decision making. We've sensorized all our equipment so that we know early on through trends and stuff when we see changes in behavior, whether something is drawing more current, there's more friction, temperature, whatever. So we know how to take action, preventive action. So we've seen productivity gains of between 15 to 20%. Now the next step of digital is going to be, how can we take the man out of the loop? Our plants are automated, but conventional thinking is, even if you have an automated line, you need 1 or 2 people on the line. I don't know why, because they really have no role to play. In fact, you can only impede the process.
But
So now
that
we're
is-
moving towards, can we establish 1, 2, 3 lights out factories? So by 2028, we want to have a full lights out factory.
So no human intervention.
Absolutely none. So full entire manufacturing process without people. Yes, you will have a lot of people in design, engineering, automation, controls, but they'll be sitting somewhere else.
Wow.
Not on the shop floor. So we are developing that. And we are also at the same time using a lot of computational mathematics, AI in automating the design process, speeding up the design process. So these are multiple areas where we're using AI.
Right. But
We're even using AI in finding which people are best suited for doing what, based on the productivity that they are able to deliver on different lines, on different functions.
this lights out factory, what's it going to mean for employment? Because you're such a big job creator also.
No, it's not going to mean anything, because employment will not go down. You will need people to do, dye changes and things like that. Today, look, our factories, these kind of lines have 1 or 2 people per line. So it's not going to mean that much less people. In fact, what it's going to mean is a lot more investment and a lot more output.
Right.
People are going to do value added work, brain work, not pushing a button.
Right.
That doesn't add any value.
Got it. Last couple of questions, Amit. Pune, if you look at it, has everything going for it, but it's always this proverbial dark horse. What will it take to kind of go beyond being
Fix the infrastructure.
fix the I hope the
Make
state,
this city livable.
I hope the powers that be are listening. But Amit, in terms of your own leadership playbook, how has that changed in such an uncertain world? I mean, I was speaking to the founder of Perplexity a couple of months ago, and he said, I don't make annual plans, operating plans anymore because something keeps changing every week and I have to adjust, my plans according to that. At your scale, how has it changed you as a leader the last year or the last couple of years where there is so much of change every day, globally,
So
nationally?
first thing is
Hmm.
accept the unexpected, not expect.
Accept.
Accept it. Accept that you don't have control over everything. Don't be a control freak. Don't worry about things that are out of your control. That's the first thing. Trump is going to put tariffs. It's not in my control. What can I can't change his mind. So I have to change what I can change. I have to change the quality of delivery, the customer satisfaction, the cost.
So
These
look
are
at the
the things
variables that you can
what
control.
I can control. Work on what you can control. When you start worrying about what you can't fix, there's no point. It's a slippery slope. Only focus on what you can fix. And in such times, when there is a lot of uncertainty, remember that you're all in the same boat. Just be the last man standing. Put yourself always in the position to be the last man standing. Always, one of my professors taught me a very important lesson. His name is David Yoffie. He taught me at HBS. And he taught us a philosophy called judo and sumo strategy. He said, when you're big in something, use your strength against your competition. And when you're entering something, use the other guy's strength against him. Because strength equals mass equals weight. So, in synthesis, you should be big but fast
An elephant that can dance.
on one toe.
On
So,
that.
That's always keep your organization hungry, agile, and listen to people right down the value chain.
So,
People down the level have good ideas.
so this I have to ask you. A lot of corporate leaders tell me they find it very hard to deal with Gen Zs. How does it work in your industry?
I deal with 3 on a daily basis. Okay? So I'm a master at it. I think you can ask my son. I'm not so bad.
What's your go-to AI tool these days?
It's Chat GPT usually.
What do you ask ChatGPT?
I didn't ask anything for this.
On that note, thank you very much, Amit, as always, for a very candid conversation. So, as we turn our attention to the next conversation, let's buckle up for a ride into the future of mobility, where the engine of progress is fueled by intelligence and innovation. For this conversation, we have a leader from one of the most notable luxury and tech-first auto giants who has been in news for helping you take your team's call from the car. So, no more skipping or postponing calls and making the max of your time while on the road. Without further delay, please join me in welcoming Santosh Iyer, Managing Director and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India. Santosh, why do you do things that puts employees in trouble? We can at least tell our boss, I'm on the road, I can't take a call.
That's true, but as we were hearing some time back, there is a study which says in our cars that we looked at, on an average, our customer spends 59 minutes in India one way. So if you're going to spend 2 hours in the car, any part of India, this is not a Pune study, this is across India, then how can we increase? And of course, it's an option. So it's not that one has to take the call, but yeah. And most of our customers are bosses themselves, so they can decide.
So we can always tell him, you have a Merc, we don't.
Maybe as a plausible argument, yeah. And the boss may give you a Merc.
Let's hope that trick works. But I have a non-Mercedes question for you. How has this Tesla showroom opening in Mumbai? I think it's too early to say how is it impacted, but potentially, what will it mean for a Mercedes? Because it's essentially the same aspirational audience that wants a Tesla? What impact do you see on a Mercedes, on a BMW, or an Audi?
So firstly, it has two layers. One, it should help acceptance of EVs further. You know, Tesla has been championing it. They're one of the first leaders to come in the US. But I think this has been long anticipated that they come to India. So maybe it only helps in accelerating a bit more adoption to EVs, etc. But if you look at us now, I can say about Mercedes-Benz. You know, for us at that price point of 50 to 60 lakhs, we our sales are only 10%. 5 to 30% of our sales are cars more than 1.5 crores, and my average selling price is more than 1 crore in India. So technically speaking, our customer base is a bit different compared to the entry level which some of our competitors cater to, and there is a market there. They would cause some disruption, but Indian customers also want somebody to hold responsible. So this business model of direct to consumer without dealer, without work, maybe they have a workshop, but it's very difficult, and we are also waiting to see how it's accepted, because generally cars are not just one time sale. There is an ownership period, servicing, also roadside assistance, and India is not one India. It's a large country as such. So I think we will be quite keenly observing what they are up to, but in terms of effect for our business at this stage, it's limited.
Will you ever buy a Tesla?
I have better cars that we make as Mercedes Benz, so I don't have a compulsion.
I just wanted you to continue on that. You said that it will not, the direct to customer model may not work in India. Do you think they'll take a different approach eventually?
No, see, we introduced direct to consumer model in the luxury car segment. If you see, we are the only brand doing it, but we have still agents and dealers in between us for service and for all the support that you need. I'm not sure of their business model because they don't do that anywhere in the world. They always operated in a different D2C model. So that needs scale in a market like India. There's many cities, a lot of coverage needed for support. But I think that's up to them. I can't comment on their future, their plans. At this stage, if you see at a car at a price point of around 60 lakhs, we operate 10% of our volumes in that segment. We don't see it as a threat, but actually we welcome them because this should help for further acceleration of EV adoption, which has been slow in India. But if you see now this year, our 9% of our sales are EVs today in India. If you look at mass market, it's 3 to 4%. All this used to be in 1 odd percent, 0.5% 2 years back. So it's all happening. More players, more the merrier, as they say. So I think we should just wait, and maybe they have a bigger game plan with cheaper cars participating in a different price point. But for us at this stage, we don't see any impact.
Right. In fact, I was going to come to the EV four-wheeler performance. It's been pretty lackluster in recent months. It's not as robust as it used to be. There's also this whole worry about the rare earth magnet issue. So how is material issue? So how is that impacting your business?
No, not if you go by pure statistics, because social media again has all this details. EV is not selling, things are happening, and but if you go by pure data, and I'm going by registration data. So if you see the luxury car market today, 10% of sales are EVs. Last year was 5%, 6%. The year before was 2%. So every year a compounded growth of 100% on EVs, and 10% EV is not bad. If you look at mass market today, again, only 20% of OEMs or showrooms today sell an EV. 80% of showrooms in India don't have an EV to sell itself, because most of the big players have not even come up with a product and an offering to the market. Let's look at only OEMs who have real credible products, in the mass market space. They have really made a good dent, and with them, the penetration is at 4% this year. So I think in a 4.2 million market, 4% penetration with just two or three players who have just introduced 2 car lines. And if you look at the number of cars that's available in the total portfolio, hardly 2-3% of models are available in EV. So 2% availability of EV models with a 4% share is not bad. But yes, could it have been better? The answer is yes. But there, I don't think customer is ready to pay a premium for decarbonizing or, for going in for a greener future. It's a clear TCO argument when it comes to the mass market, be it two-wheelers, be it, the mass market four-wheeler segment. So there is not a compulsive need for this acceleration. Till the time there are no major incentives, customers won't shift very fast to this segment as such.
Right. And I also wanted your view on the Trump tariffs and how you view it as a leader.
No, see, firstly, for us as multinationals, we also operate in many geographies,
Yeah.
and we have always been advocating free trade. Be it India or in fact everywhere else, we have a huge setup in US. In fact, we sell 300,000 cars in US. 150,000 cars we make there, and 150,000 cars we import. So, and we export also 150,000 cars out of US. Having said that, this is the new normal. There is not a way that we can keep thinking why and how. We have to navigate here. As far as for us in India and operations are concerned, we don't export out of India, so those tariffs won't affect
Will
us
not
or our
affect you.
operations as such. But overall, also when you go one level deeper, and whatever I read today morning, even if you see different sectors, the neighboring countries which are considered to be competitors in textiles and different categories, even they have tariff rate of 19-20%. So the differential arbitrage for India is 5%,
5%.
and
Yeah,
I'm
I think
sure
Bangladesh
there
is
is
at
enough
20%. Yeah.
competitiveness in India to overcome, and I think businesses will find their sweet spot, or the customer may have to pay more at the end. So we have to wait and watch, but for our business, we don't see any impact from Indian operations as
Right.
such.
Santosh, one big theme in the last couple of years for India, whether you talk to a Mercedes or to, these D2C brands that have been mushrooming, is the whole premiumization wave. Do you see that sustaining? I was talking to a D2C founder yesterday. She's the co-founder of this company called Sleep Company. And she told me that the 2.5 lakh rupee mattress sells out for her faster than the 50,000 rupee mattress. And she said that, there is a very good market for high quality premium products in the country, that it might sound counterintuitive, but that is the trend. And you have sort of benefited from this premiumization trend in the last couple of years. Do you see that continuing?
No, for sure. As I said earlier, the average selling prices used to be 40, 50 lakhs. It has gone up to a crore. So that clearly shows the purchasing power capacity and the model mix that's selling in India. On the other side, we have been 30 years in India. We have done close to 200,000 cars, 2 lakh cars in India. The 1 lakh cars have come in the last 6 years.
Wow.
So you can see the
Is this also a function of the new economy taking off because of all the ESOPs that startup founders have been
no,
encashing after?
for sure. See, there
Yeah.
needs to be money in the pocket for people to buy. So for sure, some of these effects are there. But fundamentally, two things in our view when we look at the market. Number one, the road infrastructure has improved. Is it what we want? No, but intra-city
Yeah, Amit is
infrastructure.
going to
When I
disagree.
say
Yeah.
Bombay, let's say Delhi, Jaipur, Chandigarh corridors, and here a lot of our customers, some of them of course have their own private choppers and stuff, but otherwise they would love to travel by road as well, and there is a lot of acceptance to get in there. But the biggest change point that India underwent was the GST transformation. I think wealth was always there in India. But when you buy a car, it's a registered asset. So people were always hesitating to either get a loan from the bank because you have to give your details, and then the credit profiling was challenging. But today, after GST, most of the businesses have come where they can show an income, they can show avail a credit. 80% of luxury cars sold even today are under finance. So they are all bought under financing. And therefore, I think this has also accelerated shift to luxury cars and watches and so on and so forth in different categories. So, but having said that, let me also remind that, the percentages are misleading. 30, 40, 50% growth, but at a very small base. We still, if you look at the total luxury car market in India, is still 50, 52,000 cars. If I have to compare it with many other markets, they will be in lakhs. Also the structure, the mix of cars, that's also very different. So there is still a long way to go. I think that top end of the segment, which is buying cars, they are buying the best cars, fully loaded, well equipped, personalized as well. So it's here to stay. We would all love the rate of growth to be even faster.
But are more of your customers coming from Bangalore these days because of the new economy wealth there? And
I won't say a particular city because even I have customers buying top-end cars even in Indore and many other places. But what's changing is the age demographics. Today, you can find much younger customers buying top-end cars than what you used to have in the past. S-Class today, average age is 38 years.
Wow.
So that's a fundamental difference you can see. How are they making wealth at 38? That's something that, it can be ESOPs or it can be certain other. I had, 2 years back, we had acute shortage of cars just out of COVID period. We had a founder out of Bangalore who insisted, because that was his dream, to sign that Series B funding. He has to go in an S-class with a certain pen as well. And
You should tell me the name of this founder.
it's a well-known. We maintain customer data confidentiality, but yeah, so that is there, people, because you have lived
So
up to something.
he wanted to
and you
sign
wanted.
Series B
The-
in an S-class.
He wanted to go for, and yeah, so he said he had a specific pen and a watch also in mind. Both have been done. Car is pending. So can you help with the
Is
car?
the startup doing well now?
As of now, yes.
As of now, yes. Okay. But the other point that I wanted to ask you about, Santosh, is driverless cars and what Google has been able to do with Waymo, for instance, in SFO, where it's really taken off. Do you think it will ever take off in India with the kind of infrastructure we have?
So, I was in Stuttgart 2 weeks back, and I had a chance to go level 3. So, firstly, Mercedes-Benz is the only brand in the world to have a level 3 autonomous certified car which can play on road. Rest are on beta, pilot, they can
Can
call
you
it
build
different
sensors
names.
to detect potholes?
So now I'm coming to India. I'm
Ah.
coming to India. So, and I was thinking of the use case. And for me, the use case is not the high-speed use cases, but, the 59 minutes I said, average. I take 1.5 hours every day, 2 hours every day. Of course, we have a autonomous car at a much cheaper price because we have drivers as well to drive. But on the other side, if you want to drive the car, you don't want to drive in a traffic condition. None of us want. So if you are able to get the car in that mode where it can drive on its own, where you are not anyway going to enjoy driving, not only you can do your Teams call well, you can also listen to music or look at many other options. Today, YouTube is also pre-installed. You can watch your movie. We have a complete home theatrical experience in the car. So why don't you use that drive time in a much more quality fashion, or connect with your kids, for example, as well, then be on the steering wheel. So I think autonomous car use case in India is not the Autobahn use case, wherein you go in, from one city to another. But if there can be level 3, level 4 autonomous developed, wherein it can take away the stress of driving in traffic situation, I think still it can work in India. But yes, there is some way to go. Let me tell you, we also test cars in India. It's not like India is out of the radar. But yes, some distance to travel, but these use cases would find in India.
Which
But not
city?
ride hailing like Waymo.
Which city in India do you think will be most conducive for
I think
autonomous?
as of now, all traffic is there across India. So all cities should do well. As I said, the use case will be more when you don't want to drive. And on a good road, when I even for me personally, if I go to Bombay or I have driven from Bangalore to Pune, and there are good stretches of road, you love to drive, you want to drive the car. But there are many a times for your daily commute, you may not need it, and I think that's where autonomous still has a use case.
Right. Amit told us about how he wants lights out factories at Bharat Forge, I think in the next 3-4 years, where there will not be any human element at all, in the way factories work. Is that something that you see happening for Mercedes as well, in terms of how you're implementing AI and automation? If you can give us your perspective.
So, AI and automation has, let me start from the manufacturing itself, because that was, from there, we have Factory 56 in Germany, which is, we have humanoid robots now. We have invested in companies which can also deliver there. But even before we start manufacturing, today we have digital twins across. So, even for factory layout and planning, if you are going to set up a line and assembly, everything is done digitally and then it is replicated. So, the amount of time taken to even set up factories have come down significantly because of the usage of these kind of processes using different stuff. There was another interesting experiment. What we did is we were in the design center and we said we used AI to design cars for 2040. How will a Mercedes-Benz car look at 2040? So yes, it threw a lot of options and it said that this is the way, so the design guys can argue that I can get recommendations. But what was interesting is we actually took the image of 2040 and they asked what will be the car of 2027 that will look like, because that car is yet not out. We know it, we have seen it, and it was close to what we could imagine. So I think there is a lot of possibilities. We can cut down design time, lead to market. But for us, now coming back, the biggest use case is in-car. In-car, what can we do to increase customer experience today? Right from recommendations to scheduling your meetings to many other topics. Today, we have integrated ChatGPT in the car. We have integrated Google Point of Interest in the car. So I think you can, that will change a lot of customer experience for the time that they spend in the car. So there are a lot of use cases apart from manufacturing also we see when it comes to deploying AI in cars.
Right. And I remember you were on record some time ago where you said every Mercedes sold in the world has a piece of India, right? So take us through India's role on the R&D front, on the software development front for Mercedes. Uh, is it powering cars across the world, and in what ways?
No, we proudly say this that there is a India in every Mercedes-Benz sold around the world. More than 10,000 colleagues work in Bangalore. We have a setup in Pune as well, working across functions, design to
This is your
manufacturing.
GCC or your
It's a
design
complete
hub.
GCC. We also have more than 500 patents being filed out of India. So it's a clear RD setup that we do. There is a lot of, the new CLA, which we just debuted now. It's on the roads in Germany last week. Will come to India by end of this year. It has a lot of India in it. In fact, next week I'm with all my dealers in Bangalore, showing them what we have developed out of India in this car, which has come, and a lot of it's not only about the operating system, but also a lot of work on the sensors in the car, the recognition of a human being in the car, a lot of simulation, safety. We have been doing a lot of crash simulations today. Earlier we had to crash so many cars. Today, most of them are done digitally and most of them are done out of Bangalore. So I think we contribute a lot to the ecosystem back. It's the largest RD center outside of Germany is in India.
Right. In terms of the BEV transition shaping up, what are the challenges, roadblocks, opportunities? Are customers also adopting it more?
This decarbonization agenda we were leading, we continue to believe in decarbonizing the industry as well as the overall entire supply chain and tailpipe emission as well. But geopolitically, you can't influence everything. Right now you have seen there is a big change in the way regulatory environment is changing. And as I said, customers today are not as keen. The younger customers are. They today they want the green number plate. They want to take that car to school. They are demanding greener
So there
cars.
is a social
There is a
signaling.
yeah, because let me take an example of recycling. How many of our houses had multiple bags even 10 years back?
Yeah.
Today, at least there is recycling. There is on a weekend, at least at my home, they say, hey, let's go to a certain collection area and drop it. Some of the even e-waste and many other topics. So the awareness is there among them, thanks to schools and the education now coming in. But the current generation, which is, I would say, the 30 to 50, I think there the sensitivity level is still lower. You need regulation, a strong regulation to drive OEMs and market to that level. If you look at India, the CAFE targets are there. You can meet not without electrification as well. So I think whereas in Europe, as we speak, by 2035 there cannot be a combustion engine on road. But if you look at Europe, because of that they're losing competitiveness. If you see our position on that, we have also said the European Parliament has to change the view. Else the auto industry won't be competitive, because this acceleration to decarbonization is not happening in many parts of the world that we envisage. So for us, we will offer all powertrain to customer. Let the customer decide based on the offering. Every car, every product line will have it, and we will allow the customers to decide the pace of transformation. We are quite happy. As I said, we are 9% of our sales in India are EVs, which is not bad. So yeah, we have to look at all these factors. And I think that for India, there is a bigger goal, because the oil import is one of the biggest foreign exchange drainer. All the current geopolitics also around oil right now. So there is a vested interest by the policymakers also to decarbonize and go. Apart from the environment, there is also this reduction of dependency on oil. If we can shift transport into forms of either EVs or even any other form as well. So let's see. We closely keep a watch on policy making, and as of now, we have all powertrains and we allow customers to decide.
Right. Where will the future investments happen for Mercedes in India? Will it continue to be Maharashtra? Will it continue to be in and around Pune? Because in the last few months, Andhra Pradesh has been rolling out the red carpet, giving land at 1 rupee or less. So a lot of IT companies have taken the bait. I think Google is going to invest $6 billion in Andhra. So, where do you see future investments for Mercedes?
No, I think that we have to decide when we have to do the invest, actually, because it's too early. Right now,
And
we
it
have
also
a
depends on the
capacity in
ecosystem,
Maharashtra.
right? If you have an auto component
Exactly.
ecosystem.
Right now, Pune has an ecosystem for automotive manufacturing. We have been in Pune for 30 odd years, earlier with a joint venture, then our own plant now. We have an R&D setup not only in Bangalore but also in Pune. So in these two locations, I think we are well
It's a
concentrated.
full stack.
Plus the port is close by, right? So
Yeah.
also from a logistics perspective, we are 110 kilometers from the Nhava port. And then, of course, when the right timing comes, if you want to build a different scale, then we have to, of course, look at options. But today, I think a couple of these states, including Maharashtra, I think that's not a challenge to talk to these governments and get what you want. I think there is a lot of competitiveness even among state governments,
Yeah.
which is again wasn't existing couple of years back. But today, as a brand for us, if we go to a certain governments, they are very much welcoming, and I think that's a big change we can see for us. So when the right timing comes, then we start evaluating.
Right. Finally, Santosh, Amit told us about his playbook in the current era of uncertainty. What is your leadership playbook to cope with so much of He said, accept the uncertainty.
No, I think there is not an option. Today gone are those years of 10-year planning cycles, 5-year planning cycles, and plan versus actuals. It is actuals versus actuals. This month, you see what you can steer and try to be focused on the variables that one can control, one can influence, and keep a close eye. I think what's important is you have to have the pulse of the market. We are also a lot of automotive industry, a lot of capital gets deployed in stocks, in stuff. So this pulse or that stomach feeling is equally important today, because if you don't plan it, you may miss the market. If you over plan it, then also it adds up to your cost. So I think as close to the market, working with the stakeholders who finally meet the customer, I think that I am a big believer of being close to them, being as much so that you get an early impulse. Else, you may miss one of the other impulse that you get from the market. But in the larger scheme of things, things which are not beyond our control and influence, I think it's better to ignore. Just keep be aware what's happening, but don't get disappointed with what's happening.
Right. Finally, what's your favorite car outside of Mercedes?
Wow, I am a big Schumacher fan. So when I grew
Straight
up,
to Formula One.
yeah, but he was that time before he joined Mercedes-Benz driving Ferraris. So when I was growing up, it was more Ferrari posters for me
And
than
Michael
anything else.
Schumacher with the champagne.
Yes. So and I was really happy when he shifted sides when he came to Mercedes-Benz driving our cars.
Great. On that note, thank you very much, Santosh, for talking
Thank you very
to
much.
us.
Always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Manufacturing isn't what it used to be. The rules are changing fast. Smart factories, digital twins, AI powered automation, connected everything. So, where do we go from here, and how can companies lead this new era of smart manufacturing, not just follow it? Requesting Naini to join us on stage for this, to lead this conversation and to help us unpack these questions and more. We have with us two towering leaders, Dilip Sawhney, the Managing Director of Rockwell Automation India, and Shailesh Saraf, EVP and Global Head of ER&D at Tata Technologies.
This conversation, we've spoken quite a bit about manufacturing. I mean, we're in Pune, we can't not talk about it. When it comes to, I know that both Amit and Santosh spoke about smart manufacturing, digital twins to a great extent in earlier conversations. Why don't we start this conversation by getting your perspective in terms of, where are we with smart manufacturing? And, can we, in the near future in India, look at, like, as Amit suggested, a complete lights out, automation? If you could, if I can start with you, Dilip.
Sure.
And then
Thanks, Danny. And what a set of discussions that we just had. So I want to start on a little bit of a gloomy note. If you're a manufacturer, life isn't a bed of roses, right? Never has been. There's always been the challenge of every year you got to deliver productivity year on year, workforce challenges and such. And coming into times like this, particularly coming out of the COVID-induced, challenges, supply chain constraints, and the times that we are living through right now.
yeah,
So
I mean, look at the bombs that were dropped
it is,
yesterday.
it's not fun
Yeah.
to be manufacturers, right? But at the same time, countries all across the globe, they are wanting to build resilience. Everyone wants to have, control over their own destiny. We realize that supply chains were not designed for resilience. They were designed for efficiency. That's getting reset, right? Access to raw materials. If anyone needed a reminder that it cannot be taken for granted, see what's happening with rare earths right
Absolutely.
now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just citing a few examples. So if you're a manufacturer, you really just must have, guts of steel, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing which I want to say, right? Life as a manufacturer is getting tougher and more complex, right? Access to raw materials, access to workforce. You have people retiring. Every person who retires usually would have spent between 15 to 25 years, in that kind of industry, is getting replaced with people who are, with a tiny fraction of that experience. So how do you compensate for that, right? And the list goes on. And to top it all, you have there are sustainability considerations which are staring at you in the face, right? So if I had to just put one wrap around this, it's complexity. Now, how do you deal with this complexity? How do you overcome, right? And smart manufacturing, basically it's digital powered innovation, is giving you not only a way to tackle it, but a way to really thrive in this scenario. And we can talk about more.
Absolutely. I think this was a great way to begin. Gloomy, but realistic. So I agree. Why don't we bring you in, Sailesh? Your thoughts on smart manufacturing?
While he started out in a gloomy note, let me start out on a positive
Okay,
note.
please.
right? So it is definitely tough being a manufacturer, but what we are seeing increasingly is, and Santosh and Amit spoke earlier about what they are seeing from an OEM perspective as well as from a tier one perspective. The challenges lie more with the tier ones and the tier twos as they are getting into the manufacturing value chain. If you look at the OEMs, they're largely getting into the tech disruption, bringing it into it. So if you want lights out factories, you'll see them with the OEMs. With the tier ones, things are becoming a little bit more difficult because they're slightly down in the pecking chain. The investments that they require are much more than what an OEM needs to do to automate the same thing. But we are seeing increasingly that the tier ones also want to get into that game because there is a
Interesting.
huge amount of cost pressure that everybody is facing. The consumer doesn't want to pay more for all the features that they get. So there's a huge amount of cost pressure that gets passed down the value chain. And if the value chain has to actually meet that cost pressure, then the only way to go is smart manufacturing. And the tech disruption that is coming in with respect to whether it is AI or digital manufacturing in the space of traditional manufacturing, it's transforming the way that everybody is looking at how they manufacture and supply to their OEMs. And that's where I think we will see lights out factories coming in very, very soon at the tier one level as well.
Are there certain sectors where it's going to be far more challenging for us to get into that space within manufacturing itself?
Within manufacturing, wherever there is automation already, wherever there are assembly lines which are largely automated, the digital transformation will be that much more faster. Lines which still depend on a lot of manual work happening, those are a little bit more difficult to transform. But then there are tools and techniques which are available, whether they are from the industry 4.0 coupled with AI, which are actually making us disruption in even manual lines, where you are able to, and we were working with a current a tier one kind of manufacturer, where we did an evaluation of their plant and we came up with 40 different solutions that not only automated their mechanical stuff, but bring in AI to disrupt it completely. So taking in AI with Industry 4.0, you're almost looking at Industry 5.0.
Absolutely. Dilip, if you can probably draw some comparisons in terms of within smart manufacturing and AI and IoT driven manufacturing, where is India at, or certain strategic shifts that we're bringing in as compared to, what's happening globally, possibly?
Yeah, sure. So there are many ways to answer this question. First of all, you have players in India who are every bit as competent and as how should I say, as eager to absorb these technologies. So there's no question about it. There are some players who are really, on par with the best in the world, but that is not the market median, right? If you were to unpack India's manufacturing, 90% of India's manufacturing is in MSMEs.
Yeah.
And one big challenge that Indian MSMEs, there is no dearth of, entrepreneurship, creativity, etc. But one thing which they're really constrained for is capital, both
Yes.
capital as in financial resources and capital as in human resources, right? Technical, competent people that they can retain, right? These things are real hard challenges that they deal with day in and day out, right? So if you really look at the broad spectrum, barring a few firms, and they don't really have to be very large size firms. It's just that they have the right kind of attitude is to tap into the power of technology to differentiate and innovate, right? But they are the outliers, right? The vast majority of Indian manufacturing is still evolving. I think each year, our organization, this is the 10th year, we are doing a survey we call as State of Smart Manufacturing. This year, and we only survey the top 15 to 20 manufacturing countries in the world, right? Because it's about manufacturing, right? And one thing which might surprise both of you is this year's result. There was a question about, are you using AI or do you intend to use AI in manufacturing in the next 3 years or so, right? There was a near unanimity from the respondents from India, 99%, right? And there was a clear 8 or 9 points difference, India versus the rest, about the use of AI. And these are manufacturing only respondents. So yes, people have realized that there is potential, but is there current adoption? The answer to that is no. And there are many reasons for it, right? There is a lot of technology debt. There's a fear of the unknown. They know they want to try, but what's the right place to get started with?
Particularly with MSMEs,
With
right?
MSMEs,
Yes.
right? So yeah, no, I think we are there at that very interesting, should I say, cusp of a tipping point, where many more good things will happen. And that's where the role of leadership comes in. Those organizations that are able to steer themselves through this phase, would really, gain the competitive advantage. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when we talk about innovation and where India is at when you compare us to a lot of other countries, Sailesh, if you can give us some insight in terms of the kind of innovation that is happening from India for the world and where we're at, because you deal with many global clients as well. What's your perspective and where are we at there?
So if you ask me from an innovation perspective, right, I don't think India is anywhere lacking in the innovation mindset with respect to anybody else in the globe, right? We spoke about the global captive centers that a lot of the OEMs run. Most of the R&D that they do today is done out of India because there is innovation here. And if you look at the median talent age that we have, while the manufacturing experience may not necessarily be with those students coming out of the colleges that are there, the level of innovation that is there in the college space that is happening, the incubation centers that a lot of the colleges have set up today, cutting edge innovation can be found at that level. We run an event every year, which is a hackathon which we have for colleges. We have more than 900 colleges participating, with more than 3,000 people, college students, contributing ideas. And we whittle it down to 10, and it's a tough task just to whittle down that amount to the last 10 and to finally evaluate those 10. So I don't think from a cutting edge perspective, innovation is anywhere bad in India. It's absolutely at the top. You see the startup ecosystem that is there. It's been growing at leaps and bounds in India. And that can't happen without innovation. So I don't think the challenge is with innovation. The challenge is how do we bring these innovative people together with the MSMEs and the OEMs which require them, and how do we fund the capital that is required. So the human capital is there, but you need to enable that human capital. So I think that's the challenge that we are grappling with as a company.
Absolutely.
As a country.
And when you talk about human capital, I think the biggest problem that's always spoken about today as well, with a lot of talent being fired, is skilling, right? There is a dearth of skilled talent, and that is becoming a big question with the advent of AI today. What are your thoughts on how can one sort of deal with these challenges, and what is Tata Tech doing about this?
So, as you rightly said, right, things are changing every day. It's not as if that change is happening over a year's time or a couple of years' time. It's happening every day. So if India as a country does not invest in reskilling, it's going to fall behind. Right? So one of the initiatives that we are running is we are working with a lot of the state governments to upgrade the ITI infrastructure, because that's where the base manufacturing workforce comes from. So we are doing stuff. We started with Karnataka and many other state governments now, where we are picking up the ITIs, working with partners both on the software side as well as the hardware side, to help them upgrade their complete infrastructure, upgrade the courses that they are giving to the people who are entering into it, and also closing the value chain by working with other OEMs so that they absorb the workforce that comes out of this. So I think that's a very important thing that everybody needs to focus on. Because if we have to really replace China as a manufacturing hub, and we are seeing the tilt happening towards India, then we really need to reskill the manpower to be able to harness that channel of work that is going to come our way. So there's a lot of these events that we are doing. We are working with a lot of academia to run these kind of events with them, and working with innovation startups within the academia to generate ideas out of that.
Dilip, your thoughts on the same?
Sure. So, first of all, I completely agree. No dearth of innovation over here. I think where the challenge really lies is willingness to. Let's just step back for a minute before I make the comment. As a manufacturer, your tolerance for downtime is as close as you can imagine to being zero, right? One thing you do not want to do is to cause a line down or have operations down, right? So in that context, right, you want to keep your operations running. So your ability to bring in new ideas, right, particularly ones which, whoever is the boss, the line supervisor, the promoter of the organization at whichever level, right? You got to really have belief that this is something which is not going to cause your operations to come. I'm talking in the context of a small size business in India, right? Where I'm trying to take this argument to is ability to come together and take risk on new ideas. It's not just technology, you see. When you use new technology, it opens up new possibilities of doing something. That means you have to adopt and adapt to new ways of working, right? So that kind of a change management, ability to take risk, and you also are wanting to do things at a much faster pace because you want to gain competitive advantage in the marketplace, right? So that means people in the organization who previously would not really talk on a daily basis may be required to. So collaboration, right? All of these things, they point a finger towards, is the organization having that culture of innovation, right? And that's a crucial sort of test which any organization which has to be successful out in the future, particularly through the use of technology. If they have to be successful, they have to really, really be good at this, right? And I would just leave it at this. Eventually, we talk a lot about digital transformation. My point of view is we should stop using the word digital and focus only on transformation, right? Because that's what it is. You have to transform from an earlier state of being to a new state of being, right? Digital is a means to get there. Because in this age, if you're not using digital to transform, what are you going to use, right? So I think some of those cultural attributes for an organization extremely important.
Interesting. We can't not talk about AI when we're talking about digital everything. While it is very, very important, it is, something that everyone talks about, but I don't think they really understand, how much of an enabler AI can really be. Do you think often in this process of transformation that you said, AI becomes like a force fit? And it's not, a seamless fit. I'll take your thoughts on the same as well, Sally.
Sure. So let me begin, Shalishan.
Yeah.
So first of all, not at all. I think when you're talking about AI, I'll give you my answer in two parts. First one, I think AI or any way of modeling, it's not something which as a concept is new. It's something which, at least there are people here in the room, both of us included, we've been using modeling, to predict stuff for decades. What has changed now is compute that's become much, much more easily accessible, right? That's point number one. Point number two, it's this thing called the edge, right? Which is making it much more possible to integrate many of these things into the manufacturing processes without causing latencies, right? So there is a transformational change coming in the way in which you could, integrate these technologies into core manufacturing, right? So I would not say that AI is a force fit at all. I think AI is a big unlock, right? If used the right way.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you got to be very, very clear about what problem you're trying to solve, right? So you have to have that orientation around, hey, listen, we are running a business here. This is an impediment we are trying to tackle, and I have a range of new options available to me. Do they give me, a potential solution, right? And a range of solutions that we would put it under AI, right? It's giving you predictive analytics, which is just such a powerful enabler for many, many new things, right? So yeah, that would be my point of view. I don't think it's a force fit at all. I think it's a big unlock.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, and I would agree 100% with what he said. It's complete unlock, right? It's just a matter of you imagining what are the use cases that you want to do, what's the benefit that use case is going to give you, and prioritizing which comes first. And given the change in the compute power, its reachability to the edge is creating new use cases. It's a completely new way of thinking. And in the manufacturing world, it takes a little bit of time to adopt yourself to thinking in that direction. But I'm sure that once people start adapting and adopting these ideas, they're going to create a completely new unlock in this system. And we will see this digital transformation happen at a very, very rapid pace in the manufacturing, much more than you might see even in the design side.
Got it. There is a lot of investment going in behind AI, but are we already seeing returns on that AI in your opinion?
In a lot of cases, we are seeing returns on that investment, even in AI use cases being specifically put in manufacturing. I don't need to talk about the unlocks that each one of us gets by simply using a chat GPT, or I'm sure in marketing, a lot of people are just creating presentations. Somebody spoke about banking. Somebody spoke about creating concepts for vehicles.
Yeah.
Those unlocks everybody is aware of. Manufacturing is a little bit more difficult because people don't want to get into the depths of it.
Yeah.
But we are seeing a lot of returns in manufacturing based on predictive analytics, simply making sure that your uptime is high,
Yes.
or you are able to predict ahead of time where you need to do your preventive maintenance. That itself is a huge unlock for the manufacturing industry.
Absolutely. Just one last, thought. In terms of partnerships, both for Rockwell and Tata Tech, tell us a little bit about the partnerships that you have with startups, academia, as well as government outside of the larger legacy players, and how different, it is working with these players versus, say, some of the more legacy kind of players.
So I think in today's world, given, like I said, things are changing so rapidly, there is no way that you can work by yourself.
Yeah.
You need to work in an ecosystem, and the startups create an ecosystem that really helps you to accelerate certain things, right? Whenever us as a service company, or when we are working with, let's say, a Rockwell Automation, even between us, if has to be a synergy, sometimes the startup helps us unlock it much more. And the kind of thinking, the nimbleness and agility that is there in the startups is something that all of us need to leverage. And so we work with a lot of startups to create this kind of thing. And when I say startups, it's not just the established startups. I spoke about the incubators that are running inside some of the college universities, where students can help unlock a lot of the startup culture that is there. Similarly, the government needs to participate in a lot of these things to enable, like we said, infrastructure to be available. Take the compute infrastructure that is required for AI also today. We are highly constrained with it. The government can do a lot to unlock that. So I think between us, the startup ecosystem, us as traditional players who are there for a long time in the industry, and the government, there's a huge unlock that can happen when we work together.
Got it. Dilip.
I'll bring another dimension to it. First of all, I
Please.
entirely agree with what Shailesh said, and we've been great partners. So the dimension I wanted to bring in is, let's just come from an outside-in perspective. What's happening is the time cycles are compacting. Industry after industry, used to be a time when it used to take decades, if not longer, for an industry to become, with several $1 billion valuations and such. That's happening, overnight. Product life cycles, we know are really getting condensed, and much more innovation is expected. So in this kind of an environment, where do you have the luxury of being within an organization and developing every capability, every competence that you need, and yet be able to put out a product in the next 12, 18 months, right? And that too, when technology is evolving at such a rapid pace and all the other disruptions that are happening around us. So it's my belief that you really need to be very good at what your core is, and then you have to find friends that you can work with, right? So that you create an alliance, so that together, and there has to be trust, right? So that together you can innovate much faster. And we are now very soon, and it's happening here in India because I can feel and experience it, the client vendor relationship is evolving into one of a much more deeper partnership oriented conversation, right? Now you come in, you workshop together, you talk about the challenges that the client is experiencing, and then you work not knowing, not having a precise contract written out, because that itself is going to take months. So, partnership is going to be absolutely critical to be successful in this era. So, completely believe in that. Yeah.
Thank you both so much. I think this was a fantastic conversation and some great insights. Thank you for being here. So, as we move towards culminating the evening, it's time to turn the spotlight to one of Pune's most exciting stories, the city's thriving startup ecosystem. Think about it. What is it that gives Pune its spark of innovation? Is it the energy of young founders, the diversity of ideas, or a culture that dares to try something new? Today, we unpack just that. What's fueling Pune's reputation as a launchpad for ambitious startups, and how are these change makers turning bold visions into real impact? Joining us for this discussion, Sandeep Deshmukh, co-founder and CEO, Elastic Run; Jitendra Bhandari, CEO of Valku Food Company; Vaibhav Domkundwar, founder and CEO of Better Capital; and Prachi Dharani, co-founder and CEO of Pay Global Technologies. Thank you all for being here and joining us this afternoon. For starters, I want to probably start with you, Jitendra sir. What is it that motivated you to, start the company from Pune? I want to probably, get a sense of the journey that you've had in launching the company.
What motivated me was actually I was working in USA for a long time and decided to do some. I'm from corporate world and wanted to do business and do it in India because India provided better secular growth from my perspective over the next 20 years. So decided to come back after being for 36 years in US.
Nice.
And Pune happened for me because we bought a small company which was based out of Pune, and that was our launching pad to get into business in India. Of course, that business didn't do as well, and I did have option to maybe could have started Nick ice creams from somewhere else. But Pune, the ecosystem, the food processing ecosystem, as well as the other manufacturing ecosystem was very much alive and kicking. So I decided to stay in Pune and start something from Pune. And
Yeah, absolutely. Sandeep, I'm going to bring you in here, with Elastic Run. What do you think has helped, the company grow? And what was it about the city that helped you big time in scaling up the startup?
I think the answer to both the questions is more or less similar to why did we start here.
Yeah.
I think one of the key reasons we started here was Pune always have a large talent pool of solid engineering skill set. It also helped that I started my career from here. My co-founders, all of us were here, so we were fairly aware of what's the talent pool available. I don't know what changed in the early days when Pune became more of a services hub versus the Bangalore, Hyderabad became the product hub. But from a talent availability perspective, I think it was always here. We had that idea, we knew the talent pool, and that's when we started here. And then one of the benefits that we did not think about, but it was a gift to us, was if you are the only product company or one of the few product companies and startup going into that ecosystem, you become one of the sought after employer. That helped us gain a lot of traction in tech hiring. Our attrition rates pre-COVID were probably the best in the country. Of course, COVID flattened the world and everyone could work everywhere and the location did not matter. But from a talent pool perspective and being the center of in the hiring ecosystem helped us scale pretty fast and respond to the ecosystem.
Interesting. Prachi, I'd like to bring you in here. Did you have the option of beginning the company elsewhere, and why is it that you didn't pick any other
Mine
city?
is a very interesting story.
Sure.
My husband is co-founder at another startup within Pune.
Wow.
It's called One Card, and they wanted him to move here, so I did not have a choice. So I moved here. We wanted to ensure that our family is all in it together. Came here, started the company, but in the hindsight, I think I would have never imagined to relocate to Pune. But I think it has been one of the best decisions for us, honestly, as a family, because raising kids, having being born and brought up in Mumbai, you're still closer to Mumbai. You have a better weather. You have good schools. You can have an office which is close by to your home.
Yeah.
Right. And I stay on the Baner side of Pune. I think our life is quite good. I would have not had it any other way.
Nice.
So, it's actually a good startup life with a good family life. Go to
Yeah.
office 5 minutes, come back. So
You
it's
got
been good for
lucky.
me.
Absolutely. Vaibhav, we spoke about the great stories of why people picked Pune. But coming to the challenges, as I understand, infrastructure happens to be a big problem here, right? Most founders, have been complaining about the issues with that. Give us some, color into what is really happening on ground and what are these challenges?
So I think I'll stick to sort of infrastructure challenges around innovation ecosystem itself, right?
Sure.
Which is really about capital and talent. Besides, I think we can always talk about the infrastructure challenges on the physical infrastructure, which is, I think, more or less across most cities, somebody's catching up to how bad somebody else is, right? So, but leaving that aside, and I think like Prachi mentioned, from the physical infrastructure side, Pune is still quite good, I would say, right? I think the challenge around innovation and sort of building the Bangalore-like flywheel in Pune really stems from the fact that I think historically it was a manufacturing hub, and that entire ecosystem is very different than tech innovation in some ways. And then I think there was a lot of services and sort of banking GCCs and things like that, right? So the product companies were never as deeply penetrated in the Pune ecosystem as in some others. Now, I think that became sort of the core challenge for Pune's innovation ecosystem in terms of talent, because the talent had to move away from Pune to Bangalore and Delhi and some other places, right? The talent that stayed back. So you'll see that Veritas is one of the companies that essentially has had R&D center in Pune for a long time. And I think we could take a good 60-70% of product founders in Pune who actually trace their roots back to Veritas or some teams at Veritas.
Wow.
Right? And incredible technology depth and everything, right? So I think that has been the history, right? Obviously, you're trying to change that. Now, when you want to change that, innovation really thrives on two things, right? Talent and capital. So capital has been the other challenge, right? So we happen to be the only institutionalized, scaled venture firm out of Pune. But I think we need a lot more, because like in Silicon Valley, they won't write a check if they can't drive to that company. That was sort of the system or the arrogance, whatever you want to call it, but it worked and it continues to work. So I think the physical location of capital close to the talent is very, very important. And I think while we can't change what has happened in the past, I think, let's say, like Prachi said, she loves it here, right? So as I think the One Card has like 3 or 4 founders. I think all of them are from Pune. And there are a bunch of others. So there's a generation of founders that will, I think, stay. They will bring talent back to Pune. I think hopefully many of them will succeed and become sources of capital. And I think we're going to plug that gap over the next 10 years, or at least that's my hope.
Very interesting. When you talk about, there's, of course, Bangalore today is where, like you said, all the capital seems to be going when it comes to any of these startups, right? does it kind of, I mean, does it make sense to replicate that playbook, to say Pune or any of the other cities, and kind of turn it into something like that? Or, one kind of needs to find, a strategy which works for this city?
I wouldn't replicate, I would say, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think I may be a minority of VCs who has resisted the move to Bangalore. So I think there are two parts to this, right? One is like, why are you in Pune, right? So I think that is getting solved to a large extent. I think everybody knows why they are in Pune. I think Pune has talent that's coming from some of these product companies and talent that's coming from sectors like, let's say, a lot of BFSIs in Pune, right? So if you want to, let's say, build a risk AI company in banking, you would, maybe the founders may not come from those, but they would get a lot of talent from those companies, right?
Okay.
So I think we really need to look at the strengths in Pune and then build on top of it. I think in the earlier panel, Santosh of Mercedes also talked about sort of new factories and things like that, right? I think the ChatGPT moment for physical intelligence has not happened yet. But when that happens, I think Pune is going to have a great advantage just because of the manufacturing ecosystem locally. So I think coming back to your question, I think we will succeed if we sort of look at it from a fresh perspective, not about replicating what has happened in the past in other cities, but what might happen and favor us in the future. So I think physical intelligence might be that wave that I think Pune can catch in a big way.
Interesting. Sandeep, I mean, we hear stories like this, so when we report where founders from different cities have been asked to relocate to, say, for instance, a Bangalore, because the VCP money is there. Was there a chance like that you had to resist because of anything like that?
Among all the challenges that you would have
Yeah.
of not being located in Bangalore, I think VC money will be the least one. I think I have
Okay.
not heard about it.
Okay.
The money is fluid; it's available anywhere you are there.
Hmm.
I think the challenge comes when it is you are looking for very specific talent pool.
Right.
Right. So when in our early days when we were in Series A, B,
Yeah.
we had our own finance folks, our own product team, so on and so forth. It worked well. But as we grew at our unicorn stages, when the PE kind of money came in, then you needed very different specific skill set that is available in abundance in Mumbai,
Yeah.
abundance in Bangalore. But what that meant was that for all of a good chunk of your top leadership team, you either will have to import them to Pune,
Yeah.
or you'll have to open up offices in different locations, so your headquarters is split.
Hmm.
That relocation doesn't necessarily work. I mean, we had few great guys, but ultimately their weekend trips and travel doesn't work out. We ended up opening up offices in Bangalore and Mumbai, so we manage that ecosystem. I think that one is a problem that happens. Some of the founders who moved to Bangalore, maybe some other cities where the tech talent is not available. I don't think
Correct.
Pune has that problem.
Yeah.
But beyond tech, I think senior level product leadership and then the finance and those kind of that talent pool, we have to go outside.
Got it. Jitendra, so when it comes to, probably stepping away from Pune a little and focusing on the business aspect of things, when it comes to, there's always this massive debate about value versus valuation, right? I mean, what are you really building for as a startup? What are your thoughts on the same, and how much focus have you in your experience been giving to building for value?
When we started our company, or I started it, and valuation was not on our mind. If we see our first PPT we did in 2013-14, it was to be a relevant food company providing quality food to the consumers. Valuation now is because now I'm in the Series C or whatever, so now the valuation
You have to keep that in
concepts
mind.
are coming to my mind, but
Yeah.
still the core is still, what I've learned. I've spent some time at Coke was focus on consumers, focus on delivering them the quality product, valuation will happen. I was a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, talking to a young IIT founder, turned founder, and asked him, why are you sounding down? He said, I was in the PE fund office the whole day. I said, your numbers may not be looking good for the last quarter. He said, no. I said, yeah, it happens. So he said, JB, how are you handling it? I said, you know what? You were funded from the day one after your graduation. So from day one, you are chasing valuations. And in my case, I'm building a business knowing very well that in the future valuation may chase me, but just focus on business, focus on delivering what you have started here. You have to understand why you start a business. Is it for money or is it for doing something more than money? And fortunately, having spent so many years in the corporate world, money was not the motivator. I wouldn't say it wasn't. It was zero. I wouldn't say that either. My daughters may disown me if I said that. But now that as the company is becoming bigger and you have institutional investors, you have to look after their interest and try to do the best that you can do for increasing the valuation. But if it comes to quality versus valuation, I'll choose the quality of the product.
Very
And
interesting.
I'm sure it will turn into valuation at some point.
Absolutely. Prachi, your thoughts on the same?
No, I think I completely align with what he's saying, right? I jokingly at times say, right, valuations are like girlfriend, right? It varies on the mood, right? And sometimes the same revenue will give you X multiplier, and then, it may be X minus 100, right? So I think those emotions would keep coming, right? You need to focus on why you are building the company, create the products for the end customers, focus on delivering value. The valuation will chase, right? So I think you have to be absolutely certain that you are building a long-term enduring company and focus on the customer and the products and not the other way around.
10 out of 10 times, a founder will choose a higher valuation when they go out fundraising. It's a tough one. I think it's marrying.
Yeah.
I think who you are as a person, character-wise, and your long-term goal with what you need to do as a founder who's out fundraising. It's a very tough task, and I've done both for a long time. And I see founders going out. I know who they are as people, but then when you have to go out and pitch and figure out where you stand and how much you have to raise at what price, and money concentrates, right? So today's world is very different. Unfortunately, let's say you want to build a value-centric company, but if money doesn't concentrate on you, then it's just, you're going to be handicapped, right? So it's a tough thing for a lot of founders to learn, right? Because that's not who they are, right? So it's a tough one.
And there is, a problem that seems to be arising with overcapitalization also, right? Because, certain startups seem to have too much money and some obviously are highly undercapitalized. In your opinion, what are some risks of, a startup which ends up becoming overcapitalized? And, what kind of derailing can happen then?
Yeah, we write the first check into companies, right? So we've seen a lot of journeys.
Yes.
We've seen somebody just struggle for 5 years with very, very little capital. And then there was this team that we invested in. They were still leaving their jobs. And I think the first pitch, they prepared the presentation on a Sunday. We met on Monday. We confirmed. I committed on the call because it's just so relevant to what we were thinking. 4-person, fairly high pedigree team. I think they went from 0 to raising 100 million in about 22 months.
Wow.
Right now, this was obviously the cycle that we were in, and there's a lot of money, right? 110 million, I think, right? Now, I think most of us know that is essentially going far ahead because investors speculating, they think what can happen, right? And almost none of us know what can happen. So I think the challenge, and this is one scenario, and there are different variations. I'm just giving an example. I think what happens is there is a process of internalizing that goes on within the founders themselves, right? Wherein no matter how humble you are, you're going to think different, right? You're going to buy into the story far more than what you should. Yeah. And I think that's the first, I would say, a year or two of sort of not lying to yourself, but sort of believing what may not be true yet, right? And that's the hardest part because, I think as an investor, I've seen it many times and I know it. And if I tell you that, you're not going to believe it because you're a smart person. You'll believe only when you experience it. So I just have to patiently wait, right? And I have to just maintain board meeting by board meeting. Hey, here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. And then I think the good founders will come around, right? You spend a lot of money. Thankfully, you have the money to spend. So that's fine. Then you come around and then the real business building starts, right? So I think in the 22 to 25, I think we are in a fairly bad fundraising environment even today for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So I think these founders have gone through a complete re-underwriting of themselves and their ideas and their commitment to building those companies, right? Because and post AI, there are a lot of companies you shouldn't be building, right? In fact, I have said very specific things that I believe in, which people will not like SaaS is dead, and if you're building a SaaS company that is under $10 million in revenue, you should just sell because otherwise that pivot is going to be really, really hard, right? These are realities, right? So I think it's a process that you go through to internalize and then rebuild, and it's a tough one. It takes a toll on everyone.
Since you mentioned this, can you tell us why you think SaaS is dead?
Oh wow. No, I think look, I am old enough to see the pre-SaaS world. In fact, my last job before I became an entrepreneur was at a company that was called an application service provider, right? They were trying to take enterprise software and put them, host them in a multi-tenant way, right? And then SaaS came after that because that didn't work. So I think if you look at the 20 years of SaaS from 2000s to 2020, let's say, right? I think what happened is we built workflow software. Essentially, we said SAP was too complex, so we're going to put in the cloud. Look, Salesforce is so pretty. And then we built the same complexity in it over the next 20 years because none of the large enterprises said, hey, I can't use this toy, right? So I did that, right? And then what happened is it was just commoditized, right? It was, the largest SaaS company is not the best product. The largest SaaS company is not the best product. Why are they large? Because their sales and marketing is better. If you look at the spend in SaaS companies over these last 20 years, it went largely, it started with product, but a large majority of the spend was in sales and marketing. Now, when you're doing that, you're not really selling innovative software. You're selling commoditized software and you're only as good as your company, right? So I think that's why we believe that, and I'm saying that as a venture capitalist, right? Which means that we're looking at innovation and non-linearity, right? SaaS is non-linear was clear from the last 10 years. I don't have to say it. It's very obvious, right? And I think that's what we are seeing. So if you look at India's SaaS ecosystem as well, I think we've had a lot of successes. But I think the overall market cap that we've created is nowhere close to what it was imagined as, let's say, right? And I think we will correct it because these are some of the best talent that is building these companies, and we'll go from there. But I think that is why, and I think Satya Nadella has said it and others have said it, because I think we are going from software to intelligence, and software essentially gave software for humans to use. Intelligence will deliver outcomes, and that's why SaaS is there.
Interesting. I think this was a very different perspective, and I'll think more on this as well. Sandeep, coming to you and coming back to the conversation we were at, as a founder, there's another, like today, I think at one point when one was building, businesses back in the day, it was all about profits, right? Today, there seems to be a lot of cash burn that's happening before, one reaches profitability. And I mean, it's because today we're in a different time, and there is customer acquisition cost and a lot more that one needs to do. What are your thoughts on this debate as a founder, and your philosophy on the same?
I don't think there are any two opinions on that you need profits or not, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the panelists earlier said the product life cycles are shrinking, right? The business cycles are, once you have found something, and again, as he mentioned earlier, capital concentrates. Once you have figured out a product, there is a product market fit. I don't think you have opportunity to wait it out for 5 years that I will execute it slowly, comfortably at 20% year on year, because someone is going to come and they will be better storyteller than you. They would get the funds and they will kill you. So you like it, or you hate it. This is how it is played. So every founder who once you figure out your product market fit, once you have your product, if you can raise capital, you raise capital and you go after that. But I think if you look at last couple of years, how the capital markets have moved, I think profitability has been the priority for after this the funding winter has started in last couple of years. And you would have seen that the ecosystem is reverted. I mean, now you see every board meeting, the discussion is about again back to unit economics, again profits.
Right.
I think these are cycles, boom bust. I think there would be a cycle some other time, as contrary to what you said, there will be glut of capital, and we probably will have again some more bust. In my own cycle, I have seen times when for 6 months we were selling, we could not turn funds, and I've seen cycles where we close like multiple rounds in a quarter's time window, right? So you react to the market and hold on to your story.
A follow up there, since what Vaibhav mentioned earlier as well. Currently, I mean, we're out of the funding winter, as one called it, maybe, but to an extent, I'd say. But it's still not the best kind of times, right? How are you dealing with this kind of weird phase? Can I just request you to just bring the
Okay,
mic a little
got it.
closer?
Fortunately, I didn't have to deal with this funding winter. We closed one fairly sizable round just before the winter started. And we got the money in account. We were just happy. And then everyone said, oh, now it's funding winter, focus on profitability. I said, yeah, this is the right time to focus on all the right unit economics. But yeah, had it not been that round, then this would have been a fairly tough situation in the sense, then you are suddenly put on the spot that you have to deliver certain unit economics and certain financial metrics, but the time may not be on your side. So yeah, I may not be the best person to answer that.
Fair enough. No, Prachi, if you have something to add there in terms of how you are dealing with
My
the...
story is similar to his. We had
Oh,
closed a round
wow.
just because
All
the
of you are
funding
like
went
extremely lucky right here.
And I think from early on, we've been running the organization extremely frugally, right? So even if we don't raise funds for another 2 years, we'll be okay, right? So I don't think so. We went through that phase where, we wanted to grow and we were struggling for money. We kept growing. So I think, touch wood, it just worked out.
Right. Jitendra sir, I wanted to, check with you on this. As you're growing a company, right? I mean, most founders tell us this, that there are times where one kind of needs to constantly course correct or keep changing revenue models or business models to essentially reinvent to stay the course, in a sense. In the journey that you've had with building the company, what were these times where you've had to reinvent to stay relevant in a sense? And
So I'm in an ice cream industry for now.
yes,
When we started it, and I don't come from ice cream background at all. I come from beverage or Walmart retail background. So first thing was to look at the market and what are the different categories within the market. So you have premium ice creams, you have the regular ice cream and the frozen desserts. So my first plunge was with the zero preservative added ice creams, the fruit ice creams, and we started innovating with, I think we launched Gulab Jamun ice cream way back in 2015 or 16. And now everybody has it, which is great, great to see that.
yeah,
And then once that was on its way, the kulfi happened, Gramin kulfi. A call came from Swiggy that this is the most unfulfilled search word across India. So we would like to partner with you and launch a national kulfi brand. We said, and we were happy to hear. This was way back in 2019, and we were only 2 years into Nick. So they came back and said, we feel the only company who can deliver across India is you. Yeah. So we want to work with you because we were still, fresh and hungry. And as we were doing that, we realized that the big pond out there is the regular ice cream, the cones and the bars and all, which we could not make under zero preservative because there's no emulsifiers, there are no, preservatives there. So we launched recently, 4 months ago, we had to launch. So innovation happened as the market, as I wanted to grow my business from one, I'm there in the premium, I'm there in Kulfi now. The big fish, that's still only 20% of the whole ice cream sold. So therefore, I want to get into bigger. So that's how we kept on growing. And the way we are at a point where I say within my company, we have laid the foundation. Now we have to build the company. So, and we recently acquired a small brand out of Bombay, as you know, Mimi's, because it offers super premium ice cream. So that's happening. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Coming back to the Pune side of things and maybe taking some last thoughts in the interest of time, Sandeep, I'll maybe go this way. If there were certain things that you think needs to be changed, within the Pune ecosystem to continue building and growing the startup ecosystem, what would some of those be? Maybe the top 2 or 3 that come to your mind?
I think if I have to talk of top 2, I'll say one tactical and one long-termish. I think one tactical, we need the infrastructure, physical infrastructure. I mean, to reach here, it's a project plan. I mean, that was a good part about Pune, say around 18 months ago. I'm pretty sure post the metro, it should be fine.
Better,
but I think that's transitionary phase that needs to be sorted. And second, we do have the raw engineering talent pool in Pune, but it has not gotten its due because the overall ecosystem has not built up. Maybe it needs some external jump start. Maybe regulatory authorities can play some role. Maybe us as ecosystem can play some role. But if you have a sizable cohort that gets kick-started from Pune, I think in a 4 or 5 year span, we can have the full-on ecosystem coming in. So those 2 things, I think.
Interesting. Vaibhav, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the most important thing we really need is capital. I think we need more capital to concentrate in Pune. And I think it won't happen without something fundamentally changing. And I think my thought is this whole idea of physical AI, what we call as physical intelligence, that might be the inflection point, just because that's not an ecosystem. You can't build a robotics company anywhere. You will be able to build a robotics and AI company in places where you can go into manufacturing plants, you can work with some of the best brands in the world and things like that, right? So now obviously that doesn't mean Pune is the only place, but Pune has that advantage, which means that if we can build on that, that'll be interesting. And if that happens, then the capital will come. So it's sort of a flywheel, right? So I think more capital driven by an inflection point. So that's what we're all waiting for.
Got it. Jitendra, sir, your thoughts? Essentially, what are some changes that you think are required, to turn Pune into this startup hub in a way?
I think first of all, the aspiration of local Puneites have to go up a lot, I must
core
tell
problem.
you that. Yeah, that's a core problem. Think big on a bigger scale. When I go to Bangalore and I see the infrastructure, I'm really amazed at how they have thought and the scale at which they have built the buildings or the tech parks or whatever it is.
Yeah. Do you think it's the ideas that's lacking, or like Vaibhav said, it's the capital that's missing to build on those ideas?
I had a teacher in my math class when I was doing my SSC. I come from before the 10+2 era. So he used to be Mr. Bhatt, and he used to be say, आपल्याला काय करायचं आहे? नोकरी करायचं आहे? थोडं बहुत सेविंग करायचं आणि पुण्याला जाऊन राहायचं, huh? So he was very upset. So that was way back early 70s or late 60s. There's no reason Pune should have lost the Silicon Valley to outside of Pune. We were close to the commercial capital, institutional, educational hub. We should have done that. Now coming back here, what we can do? I think Pune is starting to see, Pune will be a different city in 20 years. I think I can see, as Vaibhav is saying, the flywheel is turning. And Bangalore didn't get here, it started 35, 40 years ago. And Pune, I can feel when I walk around or meet some people, Pune is starting to think big. Pune is starting to think more confidently, besides having the, and I think I can smell it. It's going to become much bigger.
Nice. How lovely.
You know.
Yeah. Prachi, your thoughts?
I think when I say infrastructure, I don't only mean roads. I think airline also is required, right? I think each one of us struggles significantly because of poor connectivity that Pune offers. I am so looking forward for the Navi Mumbai airport to come up, right? Because you're either traveling 1.5 hours to the airport here or there, right? I think we really struggle with connectivity. And if you have to create like large product companies out of Pune, you have to be connected not only within the country but around the world. We hardly have any of those. So I think that is one key thing. I think the second is, the aspiration of the Puneites to say that we can create beyond services companies from Pune, right? And I think there needs to be more awareness, more meetups, because the young kids are taking inspiration from others, right? So at least I think it's a lot on us as founders from Pune to come together more often to say that this is possible from Pune. I think that's not happening enough. I see a lot of startup founders coming together in Bangalore, in Delhi, in Mumbai, right? There is not much happening in Pune. And I say we need to take ownership of that. So I think both is required. Capital will flow. If there is ambition, capital will come.
No, but
Absolutely.
both of
Yeah.
us have born and brought up in Bombay, so we can relate to the difference of thinking.
I'm sure. I think that's a great note to end this conversation. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you. As we draw close, I'd like to thank all of you for being a part of this inspiring evening. The conversations we've heard tonight are proof of Pune's powerful legacy, bold vision, and relentless drive to reinvent. Remember, the real impact often begins in moments like these, when passionate minds connect and fresh ideas are sparked. Let's keep shaping the future of Pune together.